Welcome back to the Manolo G Podcast. Today we're going to talk about something called folic acid. Is it a friend or a foe? So here's something we don't really think about. In almost everything, bread, cereal, multivitamins, we can find something called folic acid. Doctors push it, governments fortified food with it, and most of us grow up believing it's good for you, safe and necessary. But we want to question that a little bit. Is a synthetic molecule that's being sprayed on our foods really safe for us? That's what we're going to look into today. What if it's not really safe? What if it's not always true if it's good for you? What is folic acid? See, for a huge percentage of people, folic acid doesn't actually work the way it's supposed to. And for some, it can actually cause harm. And this all comes down to one gene. MTHFR. And depending on which version of that gene you have, folic acid might not help you at all. It could even pile up in your system in ways that really no one wants to talk about. I think it's something important that everyone should have an understanding of. If you have this gene mutation, you could be unknowingly taking in folic acid in amounts that are unhealthy for you. Something that we think is that we're doing something good for ourselves. But when you take a multivitamin with folic acid, if we're doing more harm to our body than good, it's something we need to think about. What is folic acid? Folic acid is just the man-made form of vitamin B9. Natural folate is what you'd find in something like spinach, lentils, avocados, real food. But the stuff that's being sprayed on our food is a synthetic folic acid, or a synthetic form that our body might have a hard time metabolizing. Your body needs folic acid for some really important things. It makes DNA, it builds red blood cells, and prevents birth defects. So it literally is affecting the way your body can make DNA. That is huge. It's something that is really important. As you might know, the DNA is the building block of your whole entire body. And it's important if you're having a kid, you can make more of it. Also, it's something that you should probably be aware of if you might have anemia, because something like folate helps build red blood cells. So this is really essential for your body. Folic acid is important to prevent birth defects, and that's why it's in a lot of prenatals. It's the reason why governments decided decades ago to pump folic acid into processed foods. It was even seen as a public health win, and for a lot of people, it worked. But here's a catch. Folic acid isn't active on its own. Before your body can actually use it, it has to be converted into something called methylfolate. And that conversion step, that's where things can go wrong. That takes us to the MTHFR gene. The enzyme that makes this conversion possible is controlled by this gene. Now, if you have the common version, you're fine. But common is only around 50% in this case. So that means that potentially 50% of the population doesn't have that mutation, and 50% of the population does. It's been said to 30 to 50% of the population carry the mutation of this gene, but that's still pretty high. And if you've got it, your body doesn't convert folic acid very efficiently. That means instead of turning into useful methylfolate, folic acid can just sit in your bloodstream, unmetabolized. And research suggests that over time, that buildup can have side effects. Things like fatigue, brain fog, mood issues, even masking B12 deficiency. There's also hints of higher risks of things like cancer and fertility problems. It sounds counterintuitive, but maybe that prenatal could be causing more issues. As of right now, the science is still unfolding. Years ago, we didn't even know what our genes were. But this is a time for us to be educated, know our genes so that we can make good decisions for our health. Now, on the surface, I know you might think this is small stuff, but think about it. Most of us are eating fortified foods every single day. It can be your favorite cereal, your favorite pasta, your favorite bread. Add in multivitamin or a prenatal, and you're even adding up the amounts of folic acid in your body. If your body can't process it, all of that is just accumulating up and building up in your body, slowly quietly, and nobody's warning you about it. That's why I made this today, so that maybe you could learn from this, or if you haven't been aware of this, you can be aware of what's going on here. The symptoms don't scream, "Oh, you have an issue with folic acid." They look like everyday issues: feeling tired, foggy, anxious, or depressed. Most people brush off or blame it on stress, which makes it even easier to miss. But who should really pay attention here? Women who are pregnant or trying to get pregnant, because folate is critical for development. People struggling with mental health issues, like depression, anxiety, brain fog, sometimes it does connect back to folate metabolism. Anyone with heart disease. Now, heart disease is the #1 killer right now. More people die from heart disease than anything. And since the MTHFR mutation can affect homocysteine, it can affect your cardiovascular health. I would encourage you to look into homocysteine and how it affects the cardiovascular system. There's been reports that people can have hypertension or high blood pressure, and it can be linked to the MTHFR mutation. But honestly, anyone who eats fortified foods, or lots of it, or just taking standard multivitamins should also pay attention. Because you could be slowly building up that unprocessed folic acid in your body and making problems worse. So what's the good news? The good news is that there are ways around it. Step 1 is testing your genes. Genetic testing for MTHFR is simple and widely available. You can even find it on your genes if you did a 23andMe or something like a Ancestry.com. You actually are able to download your DNA and run it through other sources like Prometheus. That can give you more details on exactly what genes you have, what papers have been published related to the genes that you have. So I really encourage you to figure out if you have this mutation. If 30 to 50% of the population does have a form of this, there's a good chance that you could actually have it too. So step 2, smarter supplementation. Instead of folic acid, you can take something called L-methylfolate. That's the form that the MTHFR gene would make if it was working in your body. If you take the L-methylfolate, this skips that conversion step that your body might struggle with. The same goes for B12. Using the active form can work a lot better. Methylcobalamin works better for a lot of people. You can actually find these pretty relatively easy. I think that you can find these supplements on Amazon. So if you're worried you might not be getting it in natural sources, this is a good alternative. And step 3, diet. Real folate does exist in natural forms. And it makes sense because as we were evolving in the plains of Africa, we didn't have grains that were sprayed with folic acid, the synthetic one especially. You can find real folate in foods like greens, beans, citrus, and avocado. Avocado has a lot of great things, actually. It's one of my favorites. This all comes in forms your body can actually use directly. No conversion needed, so that your body can fully reap the benefits that it's trying to get. Alright, so the key takeaway here is that you should just be aware of the foods that you're eating. Read the ingredients for the breads you eat or even the pasta. But likely if you're buying it in the United States, there's a very high chance that it actually has the sprayed folic acid on it. I would do your research in vitamins and also prenatals if you're taking them, because this goes pretty far. It's actually mandated in the United States to put this in our foods. So take a look into it. I hope this opened your mind up to understanding folic acid and really what it is. It can be a friend and it can be a foe, but it really depends on your genes. So if you're going to take anything from this, it would be to get your genes tested. See if you have the mutation. That's the first step. The assumption that one size fits all just doesn't hold true here. So the next time you see folic acid on a label or grab a multivitamin, just know it might not be as simple as it looks. If you've been dealing with unexplained fatigue, fog, or mood issues, it might be worth looking into your genes. And if you're planning a pregnancy, This is especially important to understand because the truth is, what's been sold to us as a universal nutrient might not be universal at all. I hope this was helpful and eye-opening, and I hope you have a great day. Bye.